My name's Michael, and this is All Departments.
Here come the cherries, and we're heading for the top of the tree. Bournemouth is a team that's going to show Division 3. Here come the leaders and the scorers at the Saturday, showing how to win the Southern way. So we sing, come on Bournemouth, come on Bournemouth. While you're out there winning, hear the shouting and the singing. We sing, come on Bournemouth, come on Bournemouth. Here come the cherries, here come the cherries, here come the cherries, number one.
Hello and welcome to All Departments. As you may be aware, I've been contributing the analyst statistics page to the Cherries Matchday programme this season. My knowledge of this area of the game has grown as a result, but I couldn't be described as an expert by any stretch of the imagination. One man who could justifiably claim to be an authority on football data is AFC Bournemouth head performance analyst Garvan Stewart. I caught up with Garvan recently and we had a fascinating chat about his work inside Dean Court.
Garvan, welcome to All Departments.
Thanks, Michael. Good to be here.
So, you work in an area that I find quite interesting in football, but maybe isn't seen that much in public. First of all, could you tell us how you ended up at AFC Bournemouth?
Basically, the way I first got into analysis was through my degree. I did just a normal sports science degree at Manchester, and I actually wanted to do PE teaching, and up until the final year of my degree, that's what I was planning to do. But I had a module on performance analysis in the final year, and I had a really good lecture, and enjoyed the coursework. And I asked him, how can I get into this line of work, basically? So he recommended doing the masters at Europe. So there was a masters in performance analysis there. Went to Europe in Cardiff and did the masters. Did some work with the World Cafe. Did some work with Cardiff City. Was at Pompey then for 4 years, and then the opportunity came up with Bournemouth, and that's how I ended up there, really.
And you have been described by our assistant manager, Jason Tyndall, as pivotal to everything that they do in terms of strategy for the team. But can you summarise what it is that you do at Dean Court?
What I do myself, really, obviously I'm the head of the department, so I've got to look after the recruiting and training of extra staff in the department, look after the equipment that we use, just making sure everyone has what they need to do the job. But my main role within the department is the pre-match opposition analysis. So I'll sit down, I'll watch 4 or 5 games in the opposition, trying to pick out strengths and weaknesses, go through all the goals they've scored and conceded. They're looking for patterns of play, basically. So how they score their goals and how people score goals against them. We'll also look at set plays and penalties and whatnot. But mainly my role is the opposition stuff.
And you obviously don't work alone. So how many people do you have in your team, and what are their roles?
We also have Ryan Dawes, who does the post-match. So Ryan he'll watch the game back afterwards. So if we have a game on a Saturday, he'll watch it back normally the Sunday. He'll pick out good things, bad things. He's got a good idea of what the manager wants us to do in terms of how he wants the team to play and how he doesn't want them to play. So Ryan will make clips almost based on that. He'll also produce all the post-match stat reports, both individual stuff for the players and team stuff. Ryan will also makes a lot of clips during the game, so Ryan will clip other things that could be used for motivational videos. So, for example, good shots, good tackles, things like that. They'll all be categorized into different player profiles and kept for them. So the players almost have an idea as well from each game of what they've done well and what they haven't done so well. Also, we have with Lawrence, who is Lawrence is the analysis intern this year. So the main thing Lawrence does is film training every day. That's daily based. Lawrence will also help me with some of the pre-match stuff. So writing up some of the reports, he'll type those up for me, and he'll help Ryan and Craig with all little bits and pieces as well. Craig's the recruitment analyst, and he'll work mainly with the scouts, and he'll be looking at stats on potential targets. He'll also be flipping videos on them as well, and having the scouts put together presentations and organisational stuff. So that's myself doing the pre-match, Ryan Dawes does the post-match, there's Craig McKee on the recruitment, and Lawrence is the first team intern this year.
So you're obviously a very busy department at the club. Do you have a lot of contact with Jason Tyndall and the manager?
Yeah, we do it. Our office is right next to him, so every day we're in contact with him. It could be the manager wanting to see stuff from the opposition from myself. He might want to look at some post-match stuff, so we've got Ryan right next to him. We'll have, if he wants anything done with the guys' training, Lawrence is in there, and then with the guys' equipment, you got Craig, but we're all quite close really, and I think it works pretty well together, the way with the layout of everything.
And how does Eddie Howe's approach to using the data compare to other managers? Because I know you've worked with quite a few. I think in the time you were at Portsmouth, they were unfortunately having a bit of a revolving door of managers during those years. Does Eddie show more enthusiasm for the data-driven approach to looking at football matches?
Well, obviously every manager is different in their approach and how they work and what they want from analysis as such. But in terms of working with the manager, he is very interested in it. He does use it as much as he can to try and make use of everything that he's got, which is what you need really to. Everyone's looking for that age, so you've got to do that. For me, it always helps when you're working with a younger manager, so it's because more often not there, but more tech savvy, so they're better on computers, which makes my job easier really. If they're quite good at just the basic work of using computers, but the manager is really into it, and he does a lot of ideas. He's very quite creative in how he uses the information, which is it's really keep you on your toes basically.
And do you have any insight into how we compare with other clubs in terms of our use of that? I mean, obviously you've worked at one or two other clubs, but I don't know if you know much about what goes on at clubs around the country. Are we ahead of the game, or is it pretty much the same all over?
It's difficult to say really because you don't know what goes on at other clubs. As far as myself, working at the previous clubs and coming to Bournemouth, we do a lot more in terms of post-match, in terms of looking at the game afterwards, whether you win or lose, it's all broken down. We'll look at done well, anything that needs to be improved. That is really, that's studied a lot more at Bournemouth than it is at other clubs, I think. The pre-match is, it's almost a given. Most clubs will be heavy on that. In terms of comparing to other clubs, I've been to a few Premier League clubs and we are doing similar work to them. They've obviously got a bit more manpower, and in terms of facilities and equipment, they are a bit ahead of us. But in terms of the actual work produced, there's not a great deal of difference really. I think the main area at the minute that will differ between Championship clubs and Premier League clubs is probably in the recruitment areas. And a lot of clubs now are doing a lot of work with stats in terms of looking at potential signings and that area is advancing quite quickly, I think. But in terms of how we compare between clubs and the championship, I think you're only guessing really. I think we are up there in terms of how much we use and what we actually produce. I think we're up there.
And do you think that gives us an edge in terms of what goes on the pitch?
I think it will give an edge. I mean, I think of a few examples, little bits and pieces. So, when Ryan Ossopp saved that penalty against Oldham when we were in League One, that was sort of the analysis of having working with Neil Moss, the goalkeeping coach. Most clubs will do this now. There's nothing groundbreaking about this. They will do an analysis of the penalty takers for the opposition team. They'll look at where they've put their shots, going back as far as they can, really. And for that particular game, Josie Barker was taking a penalty, and we knew the previous 3 penalties he'd taken. He'd gone down the middle. So he tried the little clever one to just chip it down the middle. And obviously, Mossy knew this and passed that information on to Ryan. And thank God he actually saved the penalty. They also haven't saved the penalty against Leeds last year. That was, he knew where that was going. And it's difficult to sort of say with the rest of it. I mean, you got to look at the bigger picture. There's a whole team of support staff behind the players, and they're all contributing. But yeah, it definitely has an influence. Clubs wouldn't use it if it didn't have an influence. They started at the top, like the Premier League clubs started doing it 10, 15 years ago, and gradually it's filtered down. So you've got to think, during the championship, during League One, you're always aspiring to be doing the same sort of work that the Premier League clubs are doing, because they're at the top of the game, really, and that's where everyone wants to get to.
And you mentioned that you had quite a lot of contact with Eddie Howe and Jason Tindall. Do you have a similar amount of contact with the players?
Probably not so much directly with the players. I mean, obviously, I'll do the pre-match presentations, but that'll be through working with the managers to cut down what we need to actually show them. So almost anything we show them, it's filtered through the manager and the coaching staff first, because they'll have a better idea of what's the most relevant things to show them. So I'll say them for pre-match presentations, some post-match presentations. They might come to me before games if they want to know some information about opposition players. We want to see some clips. After the games, they'll go see Ryan, because here I've made all the clips from the game. He can show them all their clips, individual stats if they want. So yeah, we do have a bit of contact with the players, but more often than not, it's that information is filtered, because you need to be very concise about what you're showing them, especially when it comes to pre-match stuff and you're trying to get across your instructions of what you want them to do in the game. It's got to be very concise and clear for them. So this is what we want you to do. You don't want to leave any grey areas where there can be miscommunications on the pitch, and you've got to be clear.
And on the match day, I watched you on Sky TV a few months ago, and you mentioned that you've got quite a bit to do at half time. Do you actually go into the dressing room and show the players and the management footage of the first half?
Occasionally, yeah. I mean, during the game, obviously, I'll be capturing the feed onto my laptop. I'll make notes of key incidents during that half. It could be a goal, it could be a sending off, just a chance, or a set play or something like that. But if it's something the manager or JT wants to show the players, then yeah, they'll ask me for the clip and they'll show it to the relevant players. So it doesn't happen every game, but you're always there just in case. Yeah, they want to show something. You can bring it up, and they can speak to the players about it and show them what they saw from the touchline.
And what about after the games? Because quite often, in the second half in particular, there's a key incident, I mean, you mentioned a sending off, but it could be anything else, a penalty that was given or wasn't given, or, so on and so forth. Do you ever show any of that to the manager quickly before he has conversations with the referee or speaks to the press?
Yeah, I mean, I think once they see it, he'll definitely he'll see it, because it'll be there for him. If he thinks he needs to clear something up before he goes and speaks to the press or the referee. But after that, anyway, I mean, not just the match day, but the day after, the manager will watch the entire game back anyway, and he'll study it just as much as I would study opposition games. So he will watch everything back after the game. That's not on the day. He'll watch it the day after.
So you mentioned a little while ago that there was a couple of penalty saves, I think by Ryan Alsop and Darryl Flahaven, that you and your team had input on and helped the goalkeepers to make their decisions when saving those penalties. Is there anything else that sticks out, maybe this season, that you and your team have had input on and you've seen come to fruition on the pitch?
Yeah, I mean, this season, if you look at the first game of the season, and first goal of the season, really, Marquis' goal against Huddersfield, that was almost exactly what we had worked on during the week, because that was something we recognised as a weakness for Huddersfield, was defending the back post, and that pattern of play that led to the goal was something that they had all worked on. And there will be various different things that come up during the game. Patterns of play, you will know. Yeah, that's almost a training ground. Maybe that's what they've worked on. There will be different things like set plays as well. I mean, all the opposition set plays, how they set up defensively, that's looked at. So we'll try and devise a corner, or devise a corner basically to exploit that. Because every setup for a corner, there will be strengths or weaknesses, but from everything. So we'll try and exploit the weaknesses. For example, against Leeds last year, it was Simon Francis had a volley from the edge. It was Jan Kermigan got the final touch, and that would have been something that the lads worked on, obviously, in training.
And it must be it must be tremendously rewarding for you, yourself, and for your team when you can see something that you've had input in come off on the pitch.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's pleasing when it comes off, but you got to remember to, as much as what you do off the pitch, it's the players that go on the pitch that make the difference, really. So you got to reward them as much as anyone, really.
And going back to the data itself, can you give us an insight into how it's collected? Because I imagine it's quite an arduous task.
As far as our own data for our games, after the game on a Saturday, we'll upload the footage to Prozone and Animasco. Well, Prozone is basically they run the UK side of the operation for Animasco on Prozone, basically. But we'll upload the footage to them after every game, and they will tag every on the ball event. So they'll go through the game and record every pass, shot, cross, every touch of the ball, basically. And then we'll get a file back on Sunday that basically Ryan will sync up with the video that we have. So then that basically enables you can go into the software and you can search for passes by Kane, for example, and you can look at all his passes. And you can also look at all the different stats, so pass completion, shots on target, off targets, corners, anything. So they will do all the tagging, really. After we get that back, Ryan will go through it and check all the stats, make sure they're correct. Then he will make his own stats, so he'll look at final third entries and various different things that the manager wants.
And does your opinion of the data change in terms of what's important over time? Because as fans, we often quote, in the light of a bad result in particular, things like how many corners we won, how much possession we had, how many shots on target we had, to kind of justify the fact that we should have got a better result than we actually did. And I'm sure you look at that, but you probably look at hundreds and hundreds of other things as well. But does some of it appear important at certain times, or, you know, in certain periods of your career, and then maybe moving forward you get a different understanding of what can influence the game?
I think what changes over time really is your understanding of the stats, and basically your ability to put them into context. And when I was first working at Tampa, I would have probably been quite naive in terms of how I looked at the stats, and probably would have seen everything in a very black and white sort of way, without really understanding why certain things happen. So when you're looking at stats, you've got to put things into context and try and understand why they are the way they are. You've got to look at each team will have a different almost profile of how they try and play the game. So, for example, a few years ago in the Premier League, teams would look at Stoke, for example, and said, well, it might have been a long ball team. But the thing is, for Stoke, they were very effective on how they worked. So possession wasn't really key for them. They're not a possession-based team. Whereas other teams like Swansea, for example, and Liverpool in the Premier League, they are possession teams. So they rely on possession. That's important for them. So maybe they would look at actual possession as a key step for them, whereas Stoke might look at something else. Stoke might look at final third entries, primary entries, second ball, things like that. So every team is different in how they set up. So different stats will be important for different teams, and you gotta be aware of that really when you look at them. And it's not just that; it's the nature of the game. So we're playing against a team, and they've got to go in the first 10 minutes. You know, they might sit back for the rest of the game, and we might have a lot of possession, but they're just protecting the lead. That's what teams will do, especially when they come to Bournemouth. Well, obviously, the team you like to think the Bournemouth will beat, the opposition will sit back and just try and protect the lead if they have it. So yeah, it's just trying to understand the different context of the stats. So a lot of stats are relevant. You've got to put them in context.
And it sounds like a very time-consuming line of work. And I imagine you need to be a football fan to even get into the kind of thing that you do. But when you're away from work, and so, for example, if you're watching the Champions League game on a midweek evening, can you relax and watch the game, or do you find yourself kind of working in your head as you watch it?
Yeah, you can certainly spend time relax and watch it, because for me, if I'm watching the game in the office or watching the game at home in the opposition, completely different. You're studying the game as opposed to just watching it, because you watch a fake play where a team might score the goal from, but you'll always take it back and try and break it down and see what happened, where did that come about, and try and look for patterns. Whereas if you're at home watching the Champions League game, you're probably not paying full attention to it. But there will be other things that could happen during the game, so there could be a set there or something big. It's quite creative. So you might try and get the footage of that again, and maybe try and do that yourself. But you've got to be a football fan really to do this work. It is really intense when the season gets started, and unless you love football, you're going to struggle for the last of the season, really. And it's a time to watch that many games.
And do you think that the use of the data, the use of analysis in football, has still got a long way to go? It's still going to grow in the game, or do you think it's reached its peak already?
I think it still has a bit to go. I mean, what I said earlier about trying to understand the context of things. The game is always changing, really. I think one area that still has a way to go would probably be recruitment. Because that's only really taken off in the last few years in terms of different clubs trying to use the stats to look at potential signing. But there's so many different things you've got to take into account. For example, if you're signing someone or trying to sign someone from a foreign league and you're looking at their stats in that league, you've got to try and understand, all right, so they're scoring 20 goals in the Dutch league. Really, if they come and play in the championships, will they do the same? It's a different style of football. It might require different characteristics in the actual player. So the recruitment side of things definitely has some way to go, but it's very fast progression because technology is developing as well, and equipment's becoming more cheaper, but more available to smaller clubs. So everything's filtering down. So I think it still has a way to go. It's just difficult to say really, but it's come a long way in the last 10, 15 years. And I think it'll keep growing, yeah.
And finally, you mentioned at the start of our chat that you knew very little about performance analysis until you had a lecture when you were at university, and then you went on to do a master's, I think, in Wales. If anybody was thinking to themselves, either through listening to this or they'd already formed an interest of trying to form a career in performance analysis, where would be the best place for them to get started, do you think?
I think because what I just said about how it's come so far in the last 10, 15 years. When I did my master's, it was the only course in the world that did that. It was the first master's in performance analysis. Now I think that there's quite a few all over the country. So there's a lot more people studying it, which means there's a lot more competition for the jobs. For people trying to get into it now, it does help if you have a master's in performance analysis, not just having done a few modules in the degree. And it helps not just in terms of what you would know in terms of an academic side of things, but I think it helps in terms of, as a person, you're a bit more mature. I can tell a difference really when I'm interviewing people who have done a degree and people who have done a master's. It is not just what they've actually learnt on the courses, it's as a person how mature they are, and sort of their own personal characteristics will have changed. And so for someone getting into it now, yeah, the masters might help. Also, a lot of people are doing internships now. I think it's almost essential to do that. But most clubs will be offering internships because there's so much work to be done on the area and everyone wants help. Probably the best example I could give you would be Ryan Dawes, our post-match analyst at the minute. He came to us, he was doing his masters at Middlesex, and he did an internship last year with the club. And Ryan was basically excellent last year in all the work he did. And this year he's got taken on. He's been given a full-time role. And he's doing well again this year. So for a lot of people trying to get into it, they might do one, maybe two internships sometimes to actually get that role, to get that first break, to get into the club. But you've got to be very hard-working to stay at this job because it is very demanding. So yeah, do the masters if you can, try and get as much experience as you can. That's a form of internship at a club where that's just helping out some work experience. That's massive, really. Because there's so many people out there now applying for the job and they might have 2 internships. So they've got that extra experience. But yeah, that's probably the way to talk about what Ryan did doing his master's, doing an internship. And then we get offered the job. That's probably the way it is now.
Sounds like competition is fierce. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show, Garvan. It's been really interesting to hear about the work you do at Dean Court, and I'm sure there'll be many more instances when you and your team's endeavours will lead to positive results for us on the field this season and beyond.
Thanks, Margaret. Cheers.
Thanks again to Garvan for coming on the show. It's fair to say that my interest in his area has grown significantly in recent times. If you want to read any of the analyst columns, they are all available on the podcast website at www.alldepartments.wordpress.com. That's pretty much it for now, so enjoy the rest of the international break if you can, safe in the knowledge that will be swiftly followed by 4 home games in the next 2 weeks. So up the cherries in all departments, and goodbye!